18 707 3120 ή στο σελίδα www.hellasfm.us.
Φίλες και φίλοι του Ελλάς FM, είστε πάντα συντονισμένοι στο νούμερο 1 ραδιόφωνο του ελληνισμού, εδώ στην συχνότητά μας, εδώ στην παρέα μας τη μεγάλη, και φυσικά ο Ελλάς FM πάντα στην καρδιά των εξελίξεων. Από τους 97 και 2 μεγακύκλους για το Tri-State, Νέα Υόρκη, New Jersey, Connecticut. Τηλεοπτικά από την πλατφόρμα του Ελλάς TV, Channel 4, για Αμερική, Αυστραλία και Καναδά. Φυσικά, κυρίες και κύριοι, μαζί από το application του Ελλάς FM, αλλά μαζί και από το Facebook. Ο Δημήτρης Φιλιππίδης είναι μαζί σας και χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ. Θα ξεκινήσω δείχνοντας αυτό εδώ πέρα. Λοιπόν, το Evie για το Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο. Evie Hantzopoulos είναι υποψήφια του Δημοκρατικού Κόμματος για το City Council. Είναι η περιφέρεια 22, η περιφέρεια 22, District 22. Η κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos, λοιπόν, είναι μια γυναίκα με πλούσιο βιογραφικό, η οποία θέλει να γίνει η πρώτη γυναίκα Ελληνίδα που μπαίνει στο Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο της Νέας Υόρκης. Είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό να στηρίξουμε και είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό να είμαστε στο πλευρό της Ελληνίδας η οποία τρέχει. Αυτή την Τρίτη, λοιπόν, υπάρχουν οι εκλογές του Δημοκρατικού Κόμματος και του Ρεπουμπλικανικού ξεχωριστά. Και εάν κερδίσει, μετά γίνεται αυτόματα το μεγάλο φαβορί. Είναι η πιο κρίσιμη αναμέτρηση. Οι Έλληνες, κυρίες και κύριοι, να σταματήσουμε να είμαστε στον καναπέ. Να σταματήσουμε να μένουμε στο σπίτι. Πρέπει οι Έλληνες να βγούμε και να ψηφίσουμε. Πρέπει οι Έλληνες να βγούμε έξω και να μην πούμε «Έλα μωρέ, καλή η Εύη, αλλά ας την ψηφίσει ο άλλος, εγώ θα κάτσω σπίτι και θα βλέπω Φιλιππίδη». Να δείτε Φιλιππίδη, αλλά θα πάτε μετά να ψηφίσετε. Αυτός είναι ο όρος για να κάνουμε εκπομπή την Τρίτη. Θα δείτε την εκπομπή, αλλά μετά στα εκλογικά κέντρα. Λοιπόν, κυρίες και κύριοι, είναι πολύ σοβαρό το θέμα. Οι Έλληνες δεν ψηφίζουμε όπως θα έπρεπε και γι' αυτό την πατάμε πάντα. Και γι' αυτό μετά λέμε, μα γιατί τα ελληνικά θέματα δεν προωθούνται? Γιατί να προωθηθούν? Επειδή είμαστε πολλοί μεταξύ μας? Αν δεν συμμετέχουμε, nobody cares. And if nobody cares, δεν θα καταφέρουμε τίποτα. Απλά είναι τα πράγματα. Θέλω λοιπόν σήμερα να κάνουμε μια πολύ έτσι ειλικρινή και όμορφη συζήτηση, ανθρώπινη συζήτηση. Ο Πίτερο Καμπίτσης από το New York Bakery λέει πρέπει να βγούμε όλοι, έτσι ακριβώς, και για το ρεπουμπλικανικό, όσοι είστε εγγεγραμμένοι, στηρίξτε ανθρώπους που στηρίζουν τα δικά μας θέματα, και για τους δημοκρατικούς έχουμε την υποψήφιά μας. Θέλω λοιπόν να καλημερίσω εδώ στο στούντιο του Ελλάς FM την κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos, η οποία είναι μαζί μας. Evie, welcome and thank you so much σήμερα. Καλώς ήρθες και σε ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ που είσαι μαζί μας.
Ευχαριστώ και καλημέρα. Τι κάνετε?
Πολύ καλημέρα. Είμαι πάρα πολύ καλά και είμαι πολύ καλά γιατί έχω και πολύ καλή παρέα εδώ πέρα στο στούντιο. Λοιπόν, πώς είσαι?
Πολύ καλά.
Θα θες λίγο πιο κοντά στο μικρόφωνο?
Ναι, εντάξει. Έτσι.
Έτσι ακριβώς.
Έτσι.
Πλησιάζουν οι μέρες.
Ναι.
Πώς είσαι, πώς το νιώθεις?
Καλά. I'm very excited. Θα πάω πίσω ελληνικά και αγγλικά.
Και ελληνικά και αγγλικά, έτσι
Συγγνώμη
ακριβώς.
όλοι. I'm very, very excited about this race. I have an amazing team. People from this community who are supporting me, who are volunteering, who are helping us get elected, because we really love this community. We love Astoria. We love District 22. It's also a little bit of East Elmhurst, Woodside, a little bit of Jackson Heights, mostly Astoria. Και αγαπάμε, Astoria και District 22 και θέλουμε να κάνουμε καλά. So I'm very, very excited. It is a tough race. There's 6 people, 6 candidates who are running, but I am the only Greek who is running. I am a woman. We have underrepresentation in the city council for women, so I hope to be the first woman elected to the city council seat, and I also hope to be the first Greek American who's elected to the New York City Council. I don't think we've ever had anyone. Costa was the first.
Costa was the first, and you're going to be the second.
Yes, and the first woman. Yes.
Exactly. And όπως είπε η κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos, στο πώς νιώθει αυτή τη στιγμή, είπε ότι είναι ενθουσιασμένη, έχει μια πάρα πολύ δυνατή ομάδα, η οποία την στηρίζει, την υποστηρίζει, κάνει εθελοντική δουλειά, αγαπάνε την κοινότητα εδώ πέρα τη δική μας. Το District 22 συμπεριλαμβάνει όλη την Αστόρια, το East Elmhurst, το Woodside και μέρη του Jackson Heights. Όπως είπε, υπάρχουν 6 υποψήφοι, είναι μια δύσκολη κούρσα. Από εκεί και πέρα υπάρχει ελλειπής αντιπροσώπευση σε γυναίκες στο Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο της Νέας Υόρκης. Υπάρχει ελλειπής εκπροσώπηση και Ελλήνων. Και I think that actually the representation is not good enough for the Greek community too, right?
I don't think there are any other Greek candidates
In general,
running for city council.
It's not only in the city council. I can see this in the state assembly, in the state senate. I can see this everywhere. We're so many Greeks, and we're not there, unfortunately.
And it's important that we have a voice in the political process. So I'm very excited to run, for all the communities that make up our district. But I'm a very proud Greek American. So, I'm just looking forward to Tuesday. Tuesday is election day. Right now we have early voting. People can go and vote early if they want.
Okay.
There's 4 polling sites in District 22. And if you're not sure where your early voting site is, you can go to my website and look it up. You put in your address and you can look it up. But I encourage people to also go vote early because Tuesday it looks like it's going to be a rainy day.
Okay.
And sometimes, θέλουμε να καθίσουμε σπίτι όταν βρέχει, So get out now, go and vote. The polls are open every day for early voting until Sunday.
Electevie.com.
Yes.
ELECTEVIE.com είναι η διεύθυνση στην οποία μπορείτε να μάθετε πού μπορείτε να πάτε για να ψηφίσετε. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό, λέει η Εύη Χαντζόπουλος, η συμμετοχή. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό να κάνουμε ό,τι καλύτερο μπορούμε. Υπάρχει στην μετεωρολογική υπηρεσία, δείχνει βροχή για την Τρίτη. Και επειδή καμιά φορά όταν βρέχει λέμε έλα μωρέ που να πηγαίνω, πηγαίνετε να ψηφίσετε πρόωρα. Μπορείτε μέχρι την Κυριακή να ψηφίσετε. Monday they cannot vote, I believe.
No voting Monday.
Okay. No voting Monday. Δεν μπορείτε να ψηφίσετε τη Δευτέρα. Την Τρίτη όμως μπορείτε να ψηφίσετε. Την Τετάρτη πάντα εμείς οι Έλληνες λέμε την Τετάρτη αχ να πάρει ευχή, θα έπρεπε να πάω να ψηφίσω την Εύη. Αλλά επειδή Τετάρτη είναι too late, είναι αργά για δάκρυα Στέλλα, καλά είναι να πάμε να ψηφίσουμε ή την Τρίτη ή νωρίτερα. So, Evie, there are, who is eligible to vote for you? Ποιος μπορεί να ψηφίσει για σένα?
So, you have to be a registered Democrat in District 22. So, if you are registered no party, if you are registered Republican, if you are registered independent or other party, you cannot vote in the Democratic primary.
So let's clarify this for the people. Κυρίες και κύριοι, αυτοί που μπορούν να ψηφίσουν την Εύη είναι οι εγγεγραμμένοι δημοκρατικοί. Πρώτον. Δεύτερον, εάν είστε ρεπουμπλικάνος, αν είστε ουδέτερος, οτιδήποτε, δεν μπορείτε να ψηφίσετε τώρα, αλλά εάν κερδίσει η Εύη, when is the next election?
November.
Το Νοέμβριο λοιπόν μπορούν να ψηφίσουν από όλα τα κόμματα.
Ναι.
Μπορούν να ψηφίσουν δημοκρατικοί, ρεπουμπλικανοί, ουδέτεροι, εξωγήινοι. Από όπου θέλετε μπορείτε να φανταστείτε, εκεί μπορείτε να ψηφίσετε. Την Τρίτη όμως είναι αυστηρά εκλογές του Δημοκρατικού Κόμματος. Ποιος θα πάρει το χρήσμα και γι' αυτό το λόγο ακριβώς ψηφίζουν αυτοί οι οποίοι είναι εγγεγραμμένοι στους καταλόγους. I would like to go on a Καλαματιανό song.
Yes.
Just to cheer up, and then let's go in the agenda, because we are for you being Greek.
Yes.
But definitely the reason why you're here is not only because you're Greek,
of course,
but because we have seen your agenda, and this is something that we have to talk about.
Absolutely.
So, κυρίες και κύριοι, γιατί θέλω να το πω αυτό, στο παρελθόν είχαμε Έλληνες οι οποίοι δεν μας άφησαν ικανοποιημένους. Το να είσαι Έλληνας δεν σημαίνει ότι θα κάνεις και καλή δουλειά. Αλλά το να είσαι Έλληνας πρέπει να σου δώσουμε την ευκαιρία να κάνεις καλή δουλειά. Και αυτό θέλουμε να κάνουμε με την Εύη. Πάμε λοιπόν σε ένα μουσικό διάλειμμα, κυρίες και κύριοι, και σε πολύ λίγο θα είμαστε και πάλι εδώ μαζί σας. Πάμε σε ένα κομμάτι το οποίο διάλεξα και ξέρω ότι θα ενθουσιάσω τους Καλαματιανούς. Το τραγούδι λέγεται «Το Ποδήλατο». Είναι ένα τραγούδι για την Καλαμάτα, κυρίες και κύριοι. Πάμε να το απολαύσουμε και να επιστρέψουμε.
Κάθε πρωί με ξυπνάς και μου λες πρέπει να πάμε στην δουλειά. Για ενιαίες μη μου λες, δεν είναι όπως παλιά. Για ενιαίες μη μου λες, δεν είναι όπως παλιά. Μα εγώ είμαι αλλού κι ας μου λες σε όλα τα μέρη του μυαλού. Φτάνω με ένα ποδήλατο. Τα χρόνια μου εδώ περνώ, σε όλα αυτά που μοιράζομαι. Μα ό,τι στα παλιά γυρνώ, θέλω ξανά να φαντάζομαι. Μα ό,τι στα παλιά γυρνώ, θέλω ξανά να φαντάζομαι. Μα εγώ είμαι αλλού κι ας μου λες είναι αδύνατο, σε όλα τα μέρη του μυαλού φτάνω με ένα ποδήλατο.
Σε όλα τα μέρη του μυαλού φτάνω με ένα ποδήλατο. Πάρα πολύ όμορφο κομμάτι, κυρίες και κύριοι. Και έτσι μια μικρή ανάσα μουσική για να μπούμε στα βαθιά τώρα και να δούμε κάποια πράγματα που έχουν μεγάλη σημασία. Evie, I will start with a tough story,
Sure.
a tough issue.
Yes.
And I think that that's how it has to go. We've seen many things regarding police. And we've seen some rhetoric about defunding police. We have seen many issues with criminality in New York. We have seen many problems. Things were not like this 3 years ago. So you're a Democrat, and I will be the devil's advocate. And I will try to provoke you.
Sure.
People listen to Democrats, and some people, because of the whole story, are afraid that if I vote this Democrat, they will make police disappear. I'm just saying they will defund police. They will make things even worse regarding police. What is your position regarding the police, the NYPD, and everything regarding police?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I know it is on people's minds, right? Because we are just coming out of the pandemic.
Yes.
People have been going through a lot. And of course, one of the things that we want is to feel safe. Everybody wants to feel safe in their community, no matter what your age, no matter what race you are, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your background, whether you've lived here for years, whether you're an immigrant, everyone wants to feel safe. I have 3 daughters. I want my daughters to be safe when they walk down the street. So I think one of the things when we talk about, defund, or when people hear that word, for me, it doesn't mean make the police disappear. There is a role for law enforcement. Is law enforcement working in the best way that it can? Right now, the police are called to deal with people who are homeless. Is that the best use of the police time? Right now, sometimes police are called if someone is experiencing a mental health crisis. Is that the best use of the police time? I don't believe that it is. I believe that we need other people who are more capable of handling those situations so that people get the services and they get the help that they need. I want the police to be able to prevent crime, right? Right now, they're just responding to it, right? They respond to it.
Yes.
So one of the things that I feel we need to do as a society is get to the root cause of what is causing crime. In many cases, it's poverty. It's the fact that people don't have their basic needs met. This is not to excuse criminal behavior. I'm not saying that at all. But I think, the police force has grown so much under the de Blasio administration. It's actually grown. We have added more and more police. And yet, has that really gotten to the point where we're addressing the root causes of crime? I would say no, right? I would say it's not. So I want to, find a way for us to work together to make sure that our communities have what they need to thrive, where everyone feels secure. So much of it is tied to the economy, right? When we have a strong economy, you see crime go down. right? Even though our economy was doing well, we kept adding more police. It really didn't make any sense at the time, and sometimes we just respond to fear as opposed to really looking at the issues deep and understanding what's going on and why they're going on.
Ρωτήσαμε λοιπόν την κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos αυτό το οποίο λένε πολλοί, ότι κάποιος δημοκρατικός είναι υπέρ του defunding police, την αποχρηματοδότηση. Λέει η ίδια, δεν πιστεύω ότι πρέπει να υπάρξει αποχρηματοδότηση με την έννοια που έχει κάποιος στο μυαλό του. Έχω, λέει, 3 κόρες και θέλω να ζουνε ασφαλείς στην Αστόρια. Λέει, όποιος και να είναι, θέλει να έχει ασφάλεια στη ζωή του, θέλει να έχει ασφάλεια στην καθημερινότητά του. Η αστυνομία δεν σημαίνει το defunding να τους κάνουμε disappear, να τους εξαφανίσουμε την αστυνομία. Αλλά όπως λέει, η αστυνομία ασχολείται με τους homeless. Είναι αυτό που πρέπει να κάνει η αστυνομία. Η αστυνομία ασχολείται με ανθρώπους με ψυχικά προβλήματα. Είναι αυτός ο ρόλος της αστυνομίας. Πρέπει να υπάρχουν οι ειδικοί για να αξιοποιηθούν κατάλληλα στα θέματα αυτά. Από εκεί και πέρα, όπως λέει, το θέμα δεν είναι απλά να πηγαίνουν όταν γίνεται το έγκλημα. Το θέμα είναι να μπορούμε να κάνουμε prevent το έγκλημα, να κάνουμε πρόληψη του εγκλήματος. Όπως λέει χαρακτηριστικά, το πρόβλημα, η βάση του προβλήματος είναι η φτώχεια. Δεν κάνω, λέει, justify, δεν δικαιολογώ την εγκληματικότητα λόγω της φτώχειας, αλλά είναι η ουσία. Ένεκα του Ντεμπλάσιο είχαμε πιο πολλούς αστυνομικούς. Προσλάβαμε πιο πολλούς αστυνομικούς. Αυτό δούλεψε? Κατά την άποψή μου όχι. Οπότε δεν είναι αυτό το ζήτημα, λέει η κυρία Χατζόπουλος. Evie, regarding the de Blasio administration, Mr. de Blasio, he's gonna get out of office. And to be honest, there have been many issues with Mr. de Blasio. You're a Democrat, he's a Democrat. I know, but you're an honest person.
Yes.
How happy have you been with the de Blasio administration? And I'm saying this not only in regards to the police, but in general. In regards to the police, I think that, to me, it's not how many policemen you have. But when you have bad leadership, it doesn't matter how many you have. Police have problems with de Blasio. De Blasio has problems with police. This is where it starts from. De Blasio has problems with the governor. The governor has problems with the mayor. So what do you think? I mean, we are one step before the end of his term,
Yes.
of his second term. How would you rate Mayor de Blasio?
I think I've been disappointed very much by the mayor. I did vote for him both times. I will say that I feel on certain issues, I have been happy with what he's done. He has brought, pre-K for all and 3K for all. I think that is really, really important. Education is a key part of my platform, and making sure that we provide opportunities to families to have their young children in quality education at a young age. That's so important for their future. That's a crime prevention strategy, right? Having young people across the city, regardless of whether their parents have money to send them to daycare, to Montessori schools and stuff like that, that they have the opportunity for a free education starting at a young age, that is a crime prevention strategy. That's an investment that we need to make. That's why I say when I want to reduce the police budget, it's for things like that that will serve us in the future. So I applaud the mayor for those efforts. I applaud the mayor for expanding community schools. My organization, Global Kids, I run a nonprofit. That's been my professional work. We work in high-need schools all throughout the city to bring in resources to the schools to support young people, to support families. He expanded that program. I think that that's really, really important because, again, that is, building healthy communities. That's what we need to do. So I applaud him on some of those efforts. I am disappointed in the way that he has handled policing. I feel that there has been a lack of accountability there. And that's the way that it's structured right now. He appoints the police commissioner, and the city council doesn't play a role in that. We have a body called the CCRB, where if people are experiencing negative interactions with the police, they can report it. They really don't have any power to hold those bad police officers, and there are, right, who have done some, not so great things. They're not able to hold them accountable. And so when you have no accountability, that doesn't work for anybody. That's not what we should have in a democratic society. So, you have to break it down to different areas. I'd probably give different grades for different things. But overall, I would just say I'm really disappointed. And I feel the way that the COVID crisis was handled too, we can talk about it a little more, was also not done well because they didn't engage people on the ground who know what the needs of the community are.
Ρωτήσαμε την κυρία Χατζόπουλος πώς βαθμολογεί την θητεία του Ντεμπλάσιο. Τον ψήφισα, λέει, και τις δύο φορές και στις δύο εκλογικές αναμετρήσεις. Είμαι όμως απογοητευμένη, λέει. Ναι, είμαι χαρούμενη για το Pre-K for All, για όλα τα προγράμματα δωρεάν παιδείας. Από εκεί ξεκινάει η πάταξη της εγκληματικότητας, από εκεί ξεκινάει το να μην έχουμε εγκληματικότητα. Αλλά όπως λέει, επίσης τα σχολεία, τα community schools, τα οποία έγινε expand το πρόγραμμα, και αυτό είναι πολύ σημαντικό που έκανε ο Ντεμπλάσιο. Οτιδήποτε άλλο όμως, για παράδειγμα με την αστυνομία και πώς χειρίστηκε το θέμα, με τον διορισμό ενός επιτρόπου, ο οποίος όμως δεν έχει συνεργασία με το Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο, όλα αυτά δεν την ικανοποιούν. Το CRB, το οποίο ουσιαστικά είναι ένας οργανισμός για τις σχέσεις αστυνομίας και πολιτών και για τις αυθαιρεσίες, δεν λειτουργήσε ποτέ όπως θα έπρεπε και αυτό είναι λάθος. Όπως επίσης και για το COVID, είμαι απογοητευμένη, δεν χρησιμοποιήθηκαν οι άνθρωποι που θα μπορούσαν να χρησιμοποιηθούν και είχαν γνώση του πώς να πράξουν σε αυτόν τον τομέα. I want to stay with COVID. Of course, yesterday there was an announcement that we're winning the battle. All right, 70% of the city of New York are now vaccinated, and it seems that we're going back to normality. Do you think normality can come in the next weeks, or is it something that we have to fight for?
That's a great question. What's normality? I don't want to just
normality
right?
would be what we had before, and we tend to forget about it.
Right, so I think we shouldn't just want to go back to normal. We should be looking at how we can build back better, so to speak, right? To use another phrase. But I think, normal, for some people, normal, the way things were before, people were really struggling, we want to make sure that we can thrive. We want to make sure that we come back a stronger city. We want to make sure that there's more opportunity for people. We want to be able to support our small businesses who were really devastated during COVID, but also before COVID. We've seen how hard it has been for our small businesses to survive, all those things. So I'm so happy that so many people are getting vaccinated. I encourage everyone to get vaccinated. It's really, really important. We're probably going to need to get boosters down the line. We need to do that because that is how we'll be able to continue building back and coming back and really building our healthy communities in all different ways, both economically, socially, in terms of our own health. And that's really, really important. I think, I'm optimistic about this city. We have many, many challenges ahead of us. But New York is a special place, and we're fighters. And so we will fight to continue to make sure that we can be the best city that we can be.
New York is a special city, absolutely. However, the hospital system seemed to collapse. I mean, of course, today, if somebody woke up today after a coma of 2 years, would say everything is fine.
Yes.
However, a year ago, we saw that the greatest city in the world, the hospital system was one step before collapsing. We saw things that we never thought we would see. And sometimes I want to be rough on my expression that we felt it's a third world city, unfortunately. Yeah. Do you think that if there is a new wave or if there is a situation in the future, because nobody thought we would live this, once we lived it, we know it's always possible to go again to this scenario. Is there any plan B, what to do in the next crisis management? Because I think that this is not a sci-fi movie anymore. It's reality.
It is. It's reality.
Unfortunately.
I think one of the problems is that we have lost hospitals in Queens over the last 20 years. We have lost many, many hospitals. They have shut down. They have been closed, not just in Queens, in Manhattan, in other parts of the city. Some have been turned into luxury condos. We have lost our hospital beds. So our hospitals here were overwhelmed. And we weren't prepared as a city. We weren't prepared as a country. I think it started top down, right? So you can't just blame the mayor. I mean, we had the governor, we had the president at the time, and we weren't preparing. Here in New York City, we didn't have simple things like masks, hand sanitizer. We should have had the ability to manufacture those things here, not order them from China, not, have them made in prisons. We should have been able to manufacture those things here. And that should be part of any plan going forward. We should be able to provide what we need for the people who live here in this city. So I think that that's important. In terms of our hospital system, as I mentioned, they're overwhelmed. We don't have enough hospital beds. We weren't able to get the supplies that we needed. We had people working, all our healthcare workers, incredible hours under tremendous stress, which is why I started an organization called Frontline Foods Queens, because we wanted to find a way to support our small business and also support our frontline healthcare workers. So we raised money, and we also partnered with World Central Kitchen to pay our local restaurants, over 30 restaurants here in Western Queens, to make healthy meals for our frontline healthcare hospital workers in 6 high-need hospitals across Queens, including Mount Sinai, Queens, including Elmhurst Hospital, Flushing Hospital, New York Presbyterian, St. John's and Far Rockaway. We were doing this because we knew what stress our healthcare workers were under. And also the folks who keep the hospitals clean, the custodians, right? The people working at the front desk. And then we also knew our restaurants had been shut down and they couldn't pay their rent. They couldn't pay their workers. So we did that to support that. I think kind of going forward, we need to look at how we can mobilize healthcare workers more quickly. Even with the vaccination rollout, I feel like we missed so many opportunities there to get vaccines to people rather than making people go to Citi Field, which was impossible.
Inconvenient.
And impossible for many seniors. We should have been doing those in-home vaccinations from the start for our seniors or people who are not able to leave their homes. And that didn't happen till later.
Λοιπόν, θα βάλω τις δύο ερωτήσεις μαζί. Όσον αφορά την ερώτηση εάν θεωρεί η κυρία Χαντζόπουλος ότι μπορούμε να επιστρέψουμε στην κανονικότητα, η ίδια λέει ότι είναι σχετικό το κανονικότητα, θέλουμε κάτι καλύτερο. Θέλουμε κάτι για το οποίο μαχόμαστε να είναι καλύτερο, μια πιο δυνατή πόλη. Να υπάρξει δυνατότητα στις μικρές επιχειρήσεις που είχαν κρίση και πριν, που και τώρα ζουν τη μεγάλη κρίση. Ευτυχώς, λέει, με την πορεία των εμβολιασμών είναι η ίδια πολύ ικανοποιημένη. Πρέπει να το κάνουμε για να ανοίξει η πόλη εντελώς. Ακόμα και όταν έρθουν τα boosters πρέπει να το ακολουθήσουμε. Είμαι, λέει, αισιόδοξη, αλλά οι Νεοϊορκέζοι ούτως ή άλλως είναι fighters, είναι πολεμιστές, μάχονται, θα το καταφέρουμε. Στην ερώτηση τώρα, τι πήγε λάθος με τα νοσοκομεία, γιατί είναι η πιο μεγάλη πόλη στον κόσμο, σε εισαγωγικά μεγάλη, πιο σημαντική, αλλά το νοσοκομιακό σύστημα σχεδόν κατέρευσε. Η ίδια λέει ότι εδώ, στο Queens, χάθηκαν πολλά νοσοκομεία, χάθηκαν πολλά κρεβάτια. Τα νοσοκομεία έχουν πάρα πολύ κόσμο, είναι υπερπληθή. Η χώρα δεν ήταν έτοιμη, γιατί δεν είναι μονάχα ο δήμαρχος, είναι και ο κυβερνήτης, είναι και ο πρόεδρος. Δεν μπορούσαμε να παράγουμε τα πρώτα υλικά. Δεν είχαμε hand sanitizers, δεν είχαμε για τα χέρια, δεν είχαμε μάσκες. Δεν είχαμε όλα τα υλικά που χρειάζονται. Γι' αυτό το λόγο ακριβώς, λέει η κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos, θα έπρεπε να φτιάχνονται εδώ, στη Νέα Υόρκη, για παράδειγμα. Όχι στην Κίνα, να παραγγέλνουμε από την Κίνα. Και όταν έρθουν οι παραγγελίες και όπως έρθουν οι παραγγελίες, πρέπει να στηρίξουμε. Ρώτησε αν υπάρχει plan B. Ναι, λέει, πρέπει να στηρίξουμε αυτούς που εργάζονται στην πρώτη γραμμή. Η ίδια έχει φτιάξει έναν οργανισμό ο οποίος έδινε φαγητό στους ανθρώπους που ήταν στην πρώτη γραμμή και μαχόντουσαν. Στους γιατρούς, στους καθαριστές, στις νοσοκόμες, στους νοσοκόμους. Γιατί έτσι στηρίξαν και τα τοπικά εστιατόρια με αυτόν τον τρόπο, τα οποία δέχτηκαν πολύ μεγάλο πλήγμα. 30 εστιατόρια της Νέας Υόρκης, του Queens, δώσανε σε 6 νοσοκομεία της περιοχής μας. Στο Mount Sinai, στο Elmhurst Hospital, στο Flushing Hospital, στο Far Rockaway, στο νοσοκομείο εκεί πέρα, στο Presbyterian, σε όλα τα νοσοκομεία. Όπως λέει, θα έπρεπε να είμαστε πιο γρήγοροι. Ακόμα και με τους εμβολιασμούς, είπαμε τον κόσμο να έρθει στο Citi Field Stadium. Πώς μπορεί να έρθει ένας ηλικιωμένος στο Citi Field Stadium? Θα έπρεπε εμείς να τους διευκολύνουμε και να πάμε εκεί πέρα. Evie, we saw the picture of New York. However, there is also a picture of Astoria. And this is your district. Να πω βεβαίως για τους φίλους και φίλοι που τώρα συνδεθήκαν ότι έχουμε μαζί μας την κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos, η οποία είναι υποψήφια δημοτική σύμβουλος της Νέας Υόρκης. Astoria. I had your pre-successor, let's say, Costa Costadinidi here, many times. He's a good friend of mine. And to be honest, I never saw Astoria getting better. And of course, this is not only because of Costa. There are many factors. I moved out of Astoria 2 years ago. I moved to Franklin Square. I'm happy. And it's bad that I work to Astoria every day, in Astoria. It's bad that I'm Greek and Greeks are here. And it's bad that every time I come to Astoria, I realize why I moved out of Astoria. So,
Γιατί?
parking, no parking. Tickets, you take tickets even for breathing. Businesses, they take tickets for a joke. It's a dirty city. It's not clean. There is criminality. We've seen crimes that we have never seen in Astoria. Also, there are burglaries. The amount of burglaries in Astoria is unique. So we see a very beautiful area being so different from what it used to be. And people, to be honest, speaking with people in real estate, they're moving out. Rents are very expensive. Somebody cannot open a business in Astoria anymore. The rents are so expensive. People are coming from Manhattan, and that gives a boost to the prices. The prices go up. People cannot afford it. We have COVID, and we have problems. So, what can Evie do to make Astoria a better city? Because I was given promises that there will be parkings, more parking spots. We see with the bikes, the city bikes, any spot of parking, they take it away. Today I parked my car. I bet 50% I will get a ticket. So, how can somebody come from Long Island to go shopping in Astoria and leave money if it's more than likely to get a ticket, for example?
Oh, parking. That's always you hear about the parking. I think, well, this is the issue is we have more and more and more development. And with that, you bring more and more and more people, which means more cars. And we have to really look at the fact that there's no way we're going to be able to provide all the parking that you want, Dimitri, right? It's just not going to happen.
You know, I like this answer, to be honest, because
yes.
a typical politician would say right now, I will have parking for every
No.
car.
It's impossible. And it's not good for the environment either, right? Like it's not. Obviously, you know, we need to make sure that there is some parking for people. And also, you know, some people are not going to be able to take public transportation. The real issue here, we do not have the kind of great public transportation that we need for a city like New York. I love the subway. I would take the subway every day to work. You know, but it needs to be more reliable, right? We need to have better bus service.
It's not safe, Evie. Right now, it's not safe. I mean, in the 80s, it used to be like this. And now we have crimes.
I was here. Listen, I've been here since 1990, right? So I know people sometimes are like, New York is worse than it's ever been. Like, it's not. It is not worse than it's ever been. New York has been in much... I'm not dismissing it.
But it's worse than 2000.
I mean, I don't know. I remember, you know, there was a lot of stuff happening, right? I think sometimes we forget just the chronic problems that New York City has had, right? Sometimes they're more visible. Sometimes they get heightened. Sometimes the media hypes them even more. I'm not dismissing the fact that we have seen a spike in certain types of crime, and we should absolutely be concerned. But I'm also not going to act like those weren't issues that have happened before. And we're certainly not at the levels that we're talking about when the economy was really, really, you know, suffering. Like I said, a lot of things are related to the economy, and I think that that's important to remember. But in terms of going back to parking, you know, I feel like we really need to look at just making our public transportation better. Like I said, with more and more people, we cannot provide a parking spot for every car. As it is right now, there are more parking spaces available across the city, maybe not exactly where you want it to be, right? But there are more parking spaces than there are registered New York vehicles, New York City vehicles. So, you know, adding more might not necessarily address the problem that you have parking because it might not be in the area that you want. But I think for you, coming from Long Island, it's probably inconvenient to get here, right? By public transportation.
Absolutely.
Right? So we need to find a way to make better public transportation. Anyone who's gone to Amsterdam, which is a city that's older than New York, right? New York was New Amsterdam, right? We were named after when it started. Older than New York, with many challenges and canals and this and that, has incredible public transportation with bike lanes that are protected. People can get around. I mean, it's amazing. Why can't we look as a city? We'd have to do it with the state, right? It's not like New York City can do this by itself. But why can't we make public transportation the best that it can for people who need a ride, right? And maybe can't have a car. There are lots of people who live, in the city who can't have a car for whatever reason, but they still need to get around and public transportation can't work for them. We should have better accessoride. It's terrible. People hate accessoride.
We agree that there has to be better transportation.
Yeah.
My main question, however, would be, how do you make better transportation? MTA makes cuts all the time.
Yes.
We have problems. So
Yes.
how can we make a better transportation? We agree that we need better transportation.
I mean, one of the things that I think the city should look at, because we do pay into the MTA and we do pay for certain things. We have the Fair Fare program, right, which is for people who are lower income so that they can, access public transportation at a lower rate. But there are so many places in this borough, in Queens, where people don't have access to a subway, right? So why not make better bus service, express bus service? And for New York City, why not make that free? Why not make it free for people who don't have access to a subway or buses so that they're encouraged and make busways, right? And so that it's efficient, that it's fast, it's convenient, and make sure that it's safe as well.
I'm going to provoke you again.
Go.
And I will
Go
say
for
that
it.
now you sound like a socialist, somebody would say.
What? Why? Well,
for the free of the...
Socialism means a lot of different things to different people. I don't think making sure that people have their basic needs taken care of is a bad thing.
But is it possible right now?
To make outer borough bus service free? Once again, it comes down to how do we budget, right? How do we budget? So I think that's one of the things that we need to look at. Where are we spending our money as a city? How are we tackling our problems? Where are we putting our money? If someone isn't able to get to the subway, right, to get into Manhattan, and has to pay, if we encourage them to use a bus to either get to the subway station or we have express bus service that can really work, because there is express bus service throughout the city that works. Why wouldn't we try and do that? That will take cars off the road so you're not sitting in traffic as long, Dimitri.
Correct.
Because if it's just cars, how do you solve the traffic problem when more and more cars come on the road?
To be honest, one of the problems that I face is that now going back home is worse. Why?
Yes.
Because people, because of COVID, they don't want to get in the public transportation.
I understand that.
Which makes sense.
I understand it. I understand it because at first, if I had to go somewhere, as I was doing, working, I shut my office. We haven't fully reopened.
Yeah.
But when I shut my office and when I needed to go there periodically, I would drive in. I have a car. Yeah. I do have a car. So, but now I take the subway. I actually don't feel that it's unsafe.
Αυτό το οποίο λέει η Evie,
I take the subway.
Αυτό το οποίο λέει η Evie είναι ότι χρειαζόμαστε καλύτερο σύστημα δημόσιας συγκοινωνίας. Χρειαζόμαστε περισσότερα λεωφορεία. Υπάρχουν περιοχές οι οποίες δεν έχουν, κυρίες και κύριοι, δεν έχουν subway. Πρέπει να υπάρχουν express λεωφορεία, πρέπει να υπάρχουν λεωφοριολωρίδες για να πηγαίνουν πιο γρήγορα. Πρέπει να βρούμε τα λεφτά, γιατί στο ερώτημα πού θα βρούμε τα λεφτά, λέει η ίδια, ακόμα και για τους ανθρώπους με χαμηλότερο εισόδημα, θα πρέπει να είναι και δωρεάν. Την πείραξα λέγοντας ότι ακούγεται πολύ σοσιαλιστικό αυτό. Λέει, υπάρχουν διαφορετικές μορφές σοσιαλισμού, αλλά πρέπει να μπορούμε να δίνουμε στους ανθρώπους αυτό που δεν μπορούν να έχουν. Και όταν τη ρώτησα πού θα βρούμε τα λεφτά, γιατί συμφωνούμε ότι πρέπει να γίνει κάτι, λέει η ίδια ότι πρέπει να υπάρχει καλύτερο budget, το allocation of resources, το πού θα δοθούν τα λεφτά να είναι καλύτερο. Προφανώς και υπάρχουν θέματα όπως είπε, προφανώς και υπάρχουν προβλήματα όπως είπε και με την εγκληματικότητα στην πόλη της Νέας Υόρκης, αλλά τα πράγματα δεν είναι ίσως τόσο τραγικά. Πολλές φορές και τα μέσα ενημέρωσης παίζουν το δικό τους ρόλο. Evie, regarding the tickets, with Costa here, we said it many things and he agreed. What do you think about the tickets? The parking tickets, A, and B, the business tickets. the violations from
Yes.
the building department and the sanitation department are out of this world. I mean, you cannot, they don't allow businesses to breathe. I mean, many businessmen call here.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks ago, somebody called crying, saying, I want to close my, excuse my French, my freaking business, and I want to get out of this city. So, sanitation violations, building department violations, parking violations, you have people working around the clock just to give tickets. What do we do with this? Can we limit this?
Yeah, so, as I'm a homeowner, right? And so nothing frustrates me more than getting a ticket from sanitation because someone dumped something in my recycling bin when I
Yes.
put it out. I didn't do it. I get the ticket. It's like $300.
Yes.
I mean, it's awful, right?
Of course.
I know also, especially during COVID, restaurants, small businesses were getting these fines because the city kept changing the rules. So particularly with the restaurants and outdoor dining, they would build their structures as they were told, and then the city would change it up or say, no, now you can't use this. You're going to get fined. Here's a ticket. Here you violated this. Here you violated that. While these restaurants, while these small businesses were struggling to stay alive. I'm against that. I don't, now, if there's a major health violation, yeah, there should be a fine. Absolutely. But things like your awning is, looks like this, or, oh, this structure that you built is, a foot over or whatever, because like all these kind of arbitrary things that were changed constantly, that's really unfair, right? So the city should look to have a cure process, right? Like instead of just say, here's your fine, okay, I'm going to give you X number of days to correct this issue if it's a major issue.
And help you. Many people do
Exactly.
not know what they need to do.
Correct. And especially our immigrant small business owners, right? There's also, the city doesn't make information accessible in their languages. They often don't do the outreach that needs to happen. And I think it's really, really important for all our immigrant communities that they're supported as they're trying to build their business. That's how the Greek community came to be so successful. They came to this country, opened up their small businesses, and we want to make sure that anyone who comes here is able to do that and build their life here, like so many, of us did, like our families did. So, I don't believe in these kind of punitive fines that is just a way for the city to make money. You know what I mean? Like we should be looking at, how we make sure that there's equitable property taxes that are levied. Right now, you're a senior, you see your property taxes, going higher and higher, and you're on a fixed income. What does that mean for you? You might have to sell your home and leave your home. That's not good. We're afraid of taxing wealthy people who have like billions, right? Like they're going to be okay, and they are making their money off of the hard work of people here as well, and off of our city. So they need to contribute also. I mean, that's a whole larger conversation. That is tied to the state as well. It's not all done on the city level, right?
Αυτό το οποίο λέμε με την Evie για τα πρόστιμα. Πρόστιμα από το Department των κτηρίων, πρόστιμα από το Health Department, πρόστιμα στο parking. Όπως λέει η ίδια έχει ένα σπίτι, κάποιος έρχεται, πετάει ένα σκουπίδι στα recyclable, στα ανακυκλώσιμα, παίρνει $300 χωρίς να έχει αυτή η ευθύνη. Αυτό είναι φοβερό. Τώρα με το COVID, οι αλλαγές που γίνανε, δεν δώσαν το δικαίωμα στον κόσμο να πληροφορηθεί, αλλάζανε οι νόμοι και μετά ερχόταν τα τικέτα, τα πρόστιμα. Υπάρχει πρόβλημα. Όπως λέει, πρέπει να δούμε, να αλλάξουμε αυτή την οτροπία. Πρέπει να βοηθάει η πόλη τον πολίτη και όχι ο πολίτης συνεχώς να πληρώνει, γιατί ο κόσμος πνίγεται. Επίσης, αυτό το οποίο είπε η ίδια είναι ότι με τους φόρους φοβόμαστε να φορολογήσουμε τους πλούσιους που έχουν δισεκατομμύρια. Δεν θα γίνουν φτωχότεροι. Βγάζουν λεφτά από τη μέση τάξη αυτοί οι άνθρωποι και από τους φτωχούς. Και όμως δεν πληρώνουν αυτά που πρέπει να πληρώσουν, ενώ ένας ηλικιωμένος μπορεί να χρειαστεί να πληρώσει τα property taxes ανεβαίνουν συνεχώς και θα αναγκαστεί να πουλήσει το σπίτι του σε κάποιο σημείο. We have another 5 minutes.
Sure.
And we're running out of time, but I'm happy that we did more time than we said, because it's really interesting. So, 2 quick questions. The first one, do you agree with the traffic cameras everywhere?
Traffic cameras everywhere?
I mean, we see
Yeah, I think, the thing about the traffic cameras, because I got one on my street.
Mm.
I live on 33rd Street, which was like a raceway to
Yes.
the Grand Central.
Mm.
It was extremely dangerous. It didn't matter if there was a traffic light. People would blow through the light, make their way, cross Broadway, up all the way up to the Grand Central. And so people who lived on my block, we were very, very concerned. We have kids, we have
Of
elderly,
course.
and it didn't matter that there was a traffic light. As soon as they kind of went through, they would just blow through. So we actually got a speed camera, and it has greatly reduced the speeding on my block. And so, yeah, I think that those are a way, because also the police can't chase people down. That's what they say. We can't do anything.
Mm.
But if you do have a speed camera, and if you're speeding, you're speeding, right? So you know what the speed limit is. It's very clear.
you do
You
it.
know what the speed limit is. Follow the speed limit. If you don't follow the speed limit, then you are breaking the law, right? And the camera
Yeah.
knows it. So I'm for that, because I would rather have that than people speeding and killing people because they're in a rush to get somewhere, because they can't wait or can't follow the speed limit. So I would like to see more of those, because also it's a huge problem. We've seen people killed. We've seen people injured. And our ultimate goal should be, that is a public safety issue. That's a really important public safety issue. We've had more fatalities in the city.
Absolutely.
And, it's a tragedy when something like that happens.
Absolutely. You know Peter Kambitsis from New York Bakery, he says that the city is attacking restaurants.
Yes.
Do you feel that?
I mean, like I said, I feel like they were overly punitive, especially during COVID, as the restaurants were trying to rebuild. Now, listen, restaurants shouldn't be doing things like, or bars, I should say. Some bars were promoting events at the height of COVID.
I agree
right?
with you. I agree with you.
Bringing in people from all over the city while we're in the middle of a pandemic, and making tons of noise, being disruptive. People want to sleep. I mean,
Being a danger to the public health.
totally.
Yes.
Right. And that's not good. So we
Okay.
also need to make sure that every restaurant or bar owner is responsible. And I believe the majority are. But if they violate,
Yeah.
if they're causing situations where it's dangerous to public health or public safety, there should be a consequence to that. Like I said, I feel like right now, as we're rebuilding, we need to make sure that we're supporting our small businesses. And it's not just in terms of, fines. How are we getting information to these restaurants? I went door to door to a lot of restaurants about the restaurant relief program. Many restaurant owners, the small ones, didn't even know about it. They didn't know that they could get relief from the state because they lost revenue during COVID. So how are we getting information to people? I feel like that's not happening. And that's another way that we as city council people or elected officials can do that. We need to do more outreach on the ground to those people who are going to miss that information and they need to be able to learn how to apply for that support.
Η Evie λέει για τα εστιατόρια ότι ναι, δέχονται επίθεση, αλλά πρέπει και οι ιδιοκτήτες να είναι υπεύθυνοι, γιατί είχαμε πολλά περιστατικά στην περίοδο του COVID με πάρτι και κίνδυνο κόσμο που ήρθε απ' έξω εδώ πέρα στην Αστόρια. Όμως σίγουρα πρέπει ο κόσμος να ενημερώνεται για το relief program, πώς μπορούν να στηριχθούν οι επιχειρήσεις, και πολλοί δεν ξέρουν για αυτά τα προγράμματα. In 1 minute, there is a very important issue. We've seen the city of New York helping people paying rent during COVID, okay? So people stopped paying rent, many of them. However, I received so many phone calls from homeowners and people who are making a living from renting their house, saying that, you know what, yes, okay, people stopped paying rents, it makes some sense, but the bills are running, the water bill is running, the taxes are running, our mortgages mostly are running. So do we have a program to help the homeowners, but not to, of course there are some programs, but at the end of the day, nobody ever said do not pay the bills, and people are really on the edge.
Sure. And there is a program, right? And the applications opened not too long ago for that. It's the rental relief program. And basically and it's not for the big corporate landlords either, right? It's for, the smaller landlords.
Somebody who has one apartment and wants to rent it.
Yeah, there's certain requirements and groups that they're prioritizing, right? So it's not like someone who, owns, it's not someone like Durst. You know what I mean? It's not someone like, Kushner Properties or anything like that. It is for the smaller landlords, the small homeowner who has some rental units and has lost income during COVID. So that is being distributed through the state, and it's the rental relief program. And if people have questions, you can actually contact your state assembly person or your state senator, no matter where you're living, about that program as well, to apply for that, so that the landlord will actually receive, that relief directly from the state. It doesn't go to the tenant; it goes to the landlord. They have to apply for it. They get the tenant to apply for it as well, so that the landlord can receive, the revenue that they would have lost, that they might need to pay their mortgage, pay their bills and stuff like that. I think we have to remember, like, this was, we dealt with a pandemic that we've never seen before in our lifetimes, right? This was so, and many of us maybe experienced it in different ways. Many of us, obviously, everyone faced challenges during this time, but some people were able to weather the challenges better than others because they owned their home, because maybe they had a second home that they could have escaped to, right? Because they were able to, they had money to buy their food. They had money to pay their rent. They had, I think we need to be sensitive to the fact that so many people really lost everything, or they were already struggling to begin with. And so, I think people who were able to pay their rent, you pay your rent. But there were so many people who simply could not. They were essential workers who maybe lost their jobs. There were people who, maybe weren't able to get any government assistance. There were people who were working minimum wage jobs who really couldn't pay the rent because the rents had gotten so high, and we've lost so many affordable units over the years. In the last 25 years here, even right here in Astoria, we have lost so much of the affordable housing that people were able, when they, first came to Astoria, way back, or their parents came, whatever, you were able to find a rent stabilized apartment, save some money, and eventually buy a home. That has become more and more hard to do. So, I think for people who maybe had tenants who weren't able to pay the rent, you should contact your state senator, contact your state assembly person, and find out about the rent relief program, because there is relief that is available to you. Like I said, they're prioritizing so that it's not going to big, corporate landlords. And they're also looking at people who are veterans, people maybe who have been survivors of domestic violence. I mean, there's different categories as well to make sure the people who most need that relief get it.
Evie, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Μια πολύ όμορφη συνέντευξη, μια ανθρώπινη συνέντευξη. Είσαι μητέρα σε 3 κορίτσια, όπως μας είπες, με αγωνίες βεβαίως και όλα τα προβλήματα που έχουν τα teenage kids, of course, αλλά παλεύεις για μια καλύτερη Νέα Υόρκη.
Ευχαριστώ.
Σε ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Καλή επιτυχία.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Και ο Θεός να σου δώσει δύναμη την Τρίτη να ακούσουμε τα καλά νέα, να σε βγάλουμε Τετάρτη πρωί στο ραδιόφωνο και να μας πεις ότι κερδίσαμε.
Ναι, ελπίζω. Έτσι. Όλοι πρέπει να πάνε να ψηφίσουν. Αυτό
θα συμφωνήσω απόλυτα. Θα συμφωνήσω απόλυτα. Φίλες και φίλοι, η κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos ήταν μαζί μας. Την ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Και θέλω να πω, με συγχωρείτε. Συγγνώμη.
Yes.
Και αλήθεια λέω ότι θα κερδίσει. Λοιπόν, I'm telling the truth that you're going to win.
I hope so.
That's why I sneezed. Λοιπόν, κυρίες και κύριοι, είχαμε μαζί μας την κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos. Αυτή την Τρίτη όλοι πηγαίνουμε να ψηφίσουμε. Οι δημοκρατικοί, όσοι είναι γραμμένοι στους καταλόγους, μπορούν να ψηφίσουν την κυρία Evie Hantzopoulos. www.electevie.com electevie.com για να πάρετε όλες τις πληροφορίες. District 22 είναι Αστόρια, είναι Jackson Heights, μέρος του Jackson Heights, είναι το Elmhurst και βεβαίως όλοι μαζί να έχουμε εκπροσώπηση στο Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο της Νέας Υόρκης. Μετά τον Κώστα Κωνσταντινίδη να έχουμε και την Evie Hantzopoulos, την πρώτη εκλεγμένη Ελληνοαμερικανίδα στο Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο της Νέας Υόρκης. Αργήσαμε πολύ, αλλά είναι η ώρα να το καταφέρουμε. Θα έχουμε όλες τις εξελίξεις από την καμπάνια της Evie βεβαίως, να την στηρίξουμε. Εμείς κάπου εδώ, κυρίες και κύριοι, φτάνουμε στο τέλος της σημερινής εκπομπής. Θα είμαστε μαζί όμως εκτάκτως σήμερα το βράδυ. Θα είμαστε μαζί σήμερα, κυρίες και κύριοι, με μια ωραία συνέντευξη, ενδιαφέρουσα συνέντευξη με την Ελένη Μπάση στις 8 το βράδυ. Η σκητάλη περνάει στον Ανδρέα Χατζιωάννου και την εκπομπή «Η Κύπρος κοντά σας». 12 η ώρα Παναγιώτης Τζένος, εκτάκτος δεν θα είναι σήμερα η Άννα Εσαριγιάννη και θα ήθελα να ευχηθώ συλληπιτήρια στην ίδια για τον παππού της. Θα έχουμε στις 2 η ώρα με την υπογραφή της Ιωάννας και 4 η ώρα μουσικό διάλειμμα. 5 η ώρα επί του πιεστηρίου με τον Χριστόδουλο Αθανασάτο και 7 δελτίο ειδήσεων από την πατρίδα. 8 η ώρα εμείς οι Έλληνες με τον Λάμπρο Καλαρίτη και 10 η ώρα της παρέας στα τραγούδια με τον Χρήστο Αναστασίου. Από τον Δημήτρη Φιλιππίδη, ευχές για ό,τι καλύτερο, το κεφάλι ψηλά, αισιοδοξία. Θα είναι μια καλύτερη μέρα η σημερινή και βέβαια κυρίες και κύριοι, εμείς θα τα πούμε πρώτα ο καλός Θεός σήμερα το βράδυ. Μέχρι τότε, γεια σας σε όλους και χαρά σας και να περνάτε καλά. Γεια χαρά.
Ελλάς FM.
Αγάπη μου, είσαι η δεύτερη πιο γλυκιά μου σκέψη.
Η δεύτερη? Δεν θα τα πάμε καλά.
Αγάπη μου, είσαι γλυκιά, αλλά η πιο γλυκιά μου σκέψη είναι το New